Good morning everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'd like to do a flip through of this stitchery book, this stitchery journal. I made this one about 2 years ago when I first discovered Anne Brooks. She had just kicked off a project called Sew for the Soul, and I was going away on holidays. I'd binge watched a heap of channels that were making the project and decided that was perfect for my holiday. I was away for 2 weeks and I needed something small that I could pop into a bag and sort of do while I was away. And I don't know if you guys are the same, but whenever we decide to go on a break, a holiday, it's like I have this panic attack that I don't have my craft room. Is this silly? I'm hoping others are like that out there, but I have a little panic attack that what will I do? What if I get bored? What if I want to do something and I don't have access to my supplies? So what I try and do now is create a project, probably 2, sometimes 3 projects. So that way when I get there, if I feel like doing something, I've got some options. And to be honest, when I get there, the environment's totally different and I tend to not do a lot, because suddenly my mind is looking at a beach or looking at mountains, and it's just like a break, which I guess that's what holidays are all about. But leading up to the holiday, before I get into the car, oh boy, it's like I'll start packing now. So a week before I'll start putting everything together, and it's a massive pile, and then my husband just rolls his eyes. So I start trimming it back. So I've got it down now to usually sewing. The one holiday, this is hilarious, the one holiday we went for 3 weeks and we'd hired a house. So there was lots of family coming and going through that whole period of time. So it was going to be a real hoot, really fun. But I had to make some scrapbook junk journals for an event that I was going to. And so I really did need to take some supplies to keep making these journals, and oh boy, the entire boot of our car was full of containers of bits to make these journals. It was very productive. By the end of the 3 weeks, using the kitchen table that was in this house, I churned out I think 12 journals, something crazy. So it was a lot of fun, and anyone who came to the house, they all got a job. So all these wives came in and pretty much joined in the hilarious project that was over this kitchen table, and then the boys all went fishing. So it worked out pretty good in the end, but oh, never again. The whole boot, we had like a suitcase each that was sitting on the back seat, and the entire boot was full of the bits I needed for my junk journals. So hilarious. Anyway, I digress. This project, as I said, was Anne Brooks. I've just written down some of the details, so if you did want to take a screenshot. Anne Brooks, textile artist. I'm sure you've all found her by now. She's amazing. Sew for the Soul. So hashtag Sew for the Soul. If you type that into YouTube, up will pop so many channels that have done a project connected to Anne's. Now, because I was limited in space with this trip, the jelly roll is what I took along to create this book. So for those of you who are not quilters, jelly rolls are strips of fabric that are 2.5 inches by 42 inches, and there's usually 40 pieces of fabric in there, and often they'll put 2 of each piece within the roll. So it's actually 20 designs, just depends on the shop. Some of the shops will buy the complete range of fabrics. The other shops might only buy half or a third, so you might find they double up some of the pieces in the design. Now, the fabric that you're looking at here is a Moda fabric, and it's Regency Romance. I really like this pack. I've had it for a few years. I believe it's still out there. I've seen it still around. So what you get in this pack is just a beautiful range of neutral tones, and then there's pops of the green, and there's pops of the pink in there as well, like a mushroomy pink. And then some beautiful little patterns, some stripes. I like to have stripes in my work. I like to have florals, just sort of breaks up the project. So this jelly roll is just the gift that keeps giving. I'm trying to keep it in the form that it came to me, but it's a fantastic way of building your stash of fabrics. You get lots of pieces, and they're good little sizes where you can just snip a little bit off if you're wanting to make a cluster for a journal, or you're doing a book. You really only need little pieces of fabric. So that's what I've used. The other thing that I took along was some wadding. Now, because I was new to this and it was my first one, I did follow Anne's suggestion and use a batting for the inside. I think the one she used was more of this weight, just a lighter weight batting. But at the time, all I had was this cotton one from when I was quilting. So I cut it up into pieces and took it along and started the process. Now, to build the book, for those of you that haven't seen Anne's videos, go and check them out. But I'll give you a brief, very brief rundown on what I did to create the book to start with. So first of all, decided on what size I wanted my page. As you can see, I went a little bit bigger, but not much. I then cut the piece as if I was going to fold it in half to the size that I actually wanted for each page. So one of those. Then I cut, I think from memory, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. And then Anne had us stitch the spine together with a slip stitch. So this piece would lay on top of the previous piece, and then along the spine we did a stitch that caught the one that you're joining to the ones you've just joined, and along the spine you went. So that then allowed all of these folded pieces, there's one, another one, and another one, there's 5 here, another one and another one. So they all ended up being on top of each other with this little slipped stitch joining them all together. So I'll just hold that up to the camera, and it's quite a nice little way of joining pages. Very simple. You can do it at any size. So that, yeah, is just a lovely way of doing it. Now, here's my pussycat's about to walk through the camera here. Casper, off you go. He's just had breakfast and now he's coming to say hello. So he needs to go and find his bed and digest breakfast like a good pussycat. See you later, Casper. Sorry about that, everyone. So where were we? We've joined our pieces together with this little slip stitch down the side. Anne has more details. Everyone has lots of details. So like I said, that hashtag will take you to the world of the stitching for the Soul project. Okay, so you got your book. I then used the jelly roll to start building everything on the pages. So we'll come back to the cover because that was sort of the last thing we did. My book is a lot smaller than the cover. As you can see, the first page I've stitched down to the back of the cover, and then the second page. I don't think she did her cover like I did, but I can't remember. It was 2 years ago, so I'm really just not sure. So what I then did is focused on just that one page. I actually stitched it all together in this form. I probably wouldn't do that next time. I'd work on one piece like we are with our blocks with the Roxy Creations project. We're just doing the one piece and then putting it together at the end. That I think is a brilliant idea, because that way you're just not having to wrestle with everything you've got here, and you start to not damage, but you start to wear everything. So that'd be a definite learnings from this project. So as you can see, I've just pieced out the fabrics like we've been doing with the Roxy Creations project, and then just started embellishing and slow stitching. So the front cover here, when I attached it to the cover, I guess this is the front cover until it became the second, I stitched it down with a pocket. I just slip stitched around so that it left a spot to tuck anything that I wanted in there. I usually put in there a little note about what the project was about, but I haven't done that yet, so I must do that. This is a snippet that I had some leftover fabric from cutting up my pieces, and I just created a flower and used scraps from everywhere from this project and created this little floral emblem here. I use them a little on fronts of journals as well. It's a really lovely little way of getting rid of all your little bits and pieces. So I'll just give you a close-up of that. On the back of that is some felt. So I just drew a flower and then on each petal started building in all the little elements. That's a paper flower in the middle, and there's a little metal key tucked in there as a little dangle. Okay, there we go. Here comes another cat. I've got two, Fudge and Casper. I don't know if Fudge will come up and walk through the shot, but we'll see. Yeah, so the page over here I did a side tuck because you can see I do a lot of junk journals, and these sort of terms sort of drifted into this journal, so to speak. So there's a side tuck there. I made a tag, a fabric tag, and that just sits in there as a little side tuck. So the next page, I wanted to do a little bit of embroidery this time, and this image here sort of inspired me. So while I was in this little beach town, I went to the local thrift shop, or what do you call it? Charity shop, and I picked up some placemats. Here comes Fudge. He's a Burmese as well, so we're going to get Fudgy out of here. Off you go, Fudge. Picked up some pink placemat fabric, which matched. So I ended up making some Suffolk puffs or yo-yos, and I just sketched a little branch, roses coming off, sort of inspired by this piece, and just embroidered it just as a pop of, I don't know, it was getting very busy, and it was just a way of sort of breaking it down a little bit and having a bit of space to take a breath, so to speak. And then just placed around lots of bits and pieces. So as you've probably seen in previous videos, I really love working with beads and pearls. So usually my pieces, once I've finished the fabric part of things, I then really start embellishing with pearls and beads and stitching them in, and it just brings a bit of sparkle to the whole piece. I'll just lift this up so you can see the little sketched bit, the little pieces of lace. In this little town that I was at, there was also what we call in Australia a $2 shop. It's a slang word for just a variety store. And it was it's a little haven. It's also a quilting fabric place. So it's been there forever. The gentleman and his wife that have owned it are now retired. I think from memory the gentleman has now passed, but they've had it for hundreds of years. And I went in there and it was like an Aladdin's cave of fabrics and sewing notions and buttons from way back. So rummaging through this place for hours, and then I had this pile of fabric on the counter, and the girls said, we can see that you really love fabric, come with us. And there was another two ladies in the shop, so we walked across the street to another building, which was sort of behind the main street, and it was the old bakehouse from the town. And we went in there and the whole room was full of fabrics, the whole shop. It was amazing. It wasn't a big building. And then to the side was the big furnace where they would have put the bread in and made bread for the community. For the Australian ladies, you may know this town. If I'm describing some of these elements, I'm sure you've been taken through to the second hidden store in this little town. The town is Howard. We were staying at Burham Heads, and this little town is just off the Bruce Highway in Queensland, in the Fraser Coast area, and in that little town is a fantastic bakery and butcher and this fabric shop. And it's been there. It's actually a drapery is the wording for the shop. So it's amazing. There's some great shops in Hervey Bay as well, some lovely fabric shops, and even in Maryborough. So when we get to Burham Heads, I really feel like I've slipped into Alice in Wonderland, because we've got the drapery in Howard, and then 20 minutes away, Hervey Bay, there's Dewdrop Inn, and then up to Maryborough, and you've got Patchwork on Palace. Amazing, amazing. I love them all. And then in amongst that is some great charity shops. So anyway, I get so sidetracked, but I'll just bring this up and show you the yo-yos. with this placement, I just popped a piece of lace in the corner, created some yo-yos. There's that eyelash yarn that I use, and then purled it all up. Pearls inside the yo-yo, a big pearl with little ones. It just adds a beautiful touch to your piece. Some little stitches everywhere, little seed stitches, and then the embroidery itself. Okay, let's turn the page. So for the 2 weeks I was there on holidays at Burrum, this was my project, and it was fantastic. I could just sit around, chat with friends and family that came, and stitch away. And the little shop at Howard provided trims. I think I got that there actually. And this doily was at the charity shop just a couple streets over. So I picked up some buttons. Like, it was really fun to actually go with just the basics and then build the piece from the environment that I was in and support, you know, the local community. These drapery shops are becoming rare, and yeah, it's really great to go looking in and pick up some treasures, because it sort of becomes part of the memory of the piece. This looking at this one, and I think did a weaving project. One of the pages was weaving, so I've done a little bit of that on this particular panel. I think it's sort of, now that I look at it, it's coming back to me. This fabric in behind is from the charity shop. I've used that in a few pieces just recently, and I'm sort of down to my last little bit of that. It is from a pillow slip. I think I have some behind me here. Working on a little stitchery at the moment. That's the piece there. So it's the fancy pillow slip that no one wants to sleep on, because it's there for looks for your bed, but often the linen gets used. That all ends up at a charity shop or in the bin, and these pillows, the decorative pillows, they at the charity shop unslept on. So they're fantastic ways of picking up some textures in fabrics. Okay, next page. I made another tag. Now, I'm not a lover of this tag. The fabric here, I don't know what it is. Maybe it needs to be stitched, but I nearly didn't use the tag, but it just, that fabric there is just bugging me. But I'll show you where it's from, because that's the lace that came from that fabric. So you would think it works, but I don't know. There's something not right here. It's just not pleasing to the eye. But anyway, I've left it in there because it's, you know, it just reminds me about colour, and some pieces work and some pieces don't. It just doesn't quite work. And I spent so much time stitching it that, yeah, I've just kept it. So on that edge, I think at the time I was watching a Rachel video, Roxy Creations, where she was turning the fabric over to create a seam binding effect, and then just stitching it on. Not overthinking it. Doesn't have to be all joined like we would in the patchwork world, where we'd make a big long strip and then turn it, stitch it down, then turn it over and then slip stitch the back. It's just a case of cutting strips of fabric, popping them over the edge and stitching them down. I love it. I love it. I love the fact that I didn't need a sewing machine and I could just take a needle and thread. So lovely little video I watched, and then made the tag and then just slid it into the little pocket. So really simple edging. Now this little one, there's not a lot of stitching on it. I've done a bit of burrow stitch there. I had stamped fabric with me, just some messages stamped on calico, pop of lace through there. So I wouldn't normally put the white lace with the piece, but I don't know, I just liked it. It sort of brought a freshness to it. It was very muted otherwise, so you will see the white through. This one here is very squares and patchwork. So lots of squares, and I just layered them on top of each other, over each other. And then once they were all in position, I then stitch them down with the invisible stitch, which is just catching them down. You can do big tacking stitches and then take it out. You can use pins. Pins, it's just dangerous. You'll end up jabbing yourself. It'll be a painful experience. A bit of seed stitch through there. It's amazing how different that fabric looks when the seed stitch was applied. Where else have I got it? That's the floral. Oh, that's its sister, but oh, it's not used in the beginning. But just applying that chocolate seed stitch just changed the whole fabric completely. It's a lovely little stitch. Those little blue buttons come from the Howard drapery. Fantastic. So the next page and last page, this is a doily in its entirety, found at the Howard shop, the charity shop, and that then was attached to the back page and then was just sort of flapping here on to this. I then attached it to the back cover. So this little piece was added probably about a month later. My aunt came to visit and they'd had a great aunt pass away in the family. So I inherited all of the crochet cottons because they'd been in her cupboard for a little while and she couldn't see herself using them. So she said, do you want them? They were heading to the bin. I was like, oh, yes, yes, please. And in amongst it was some patterns and some odds and ends and unfinished projects. And this little lady doily was in there. So she ended up finding a home here. She's just beautiful. Lovely little pattern. I think there were two in the end that I inherited there. So a lovely spot to pop her on the last page. Okay, so that's the book itself. Then Anne worked us through making the cover. And she got one big piece of calico that went across. It was then the spine, as you can see, is here, and there's like a little pinch there where, what can we see in here? How do I explain this? Sort of was stitched in through here, and in the process it created like this little edge, and that is all one piece. So like I said, go and have a look on YouTube under that hashtag Sew for the Soul, and you'll be able to see many videos showing how the girls were putting this together. Then to decorate the spine, because that was plain, that was just calico, we all created a snippet that was just full of bits and pieces from the project left over, and then that was stitched onto the spine. I haven't done the back. I decided I wasn't going to. I just sort of liked the fact that it was still open and I could have a little look to see, you know, what I had done. So that's the project completed. On the front, I just did a collection of doilies. These were all also found from the thrift store that was in Howard. So it was just a lovely way of using all the treasures that I had fossicked out in the community and then making a book from that holiday. So if you're going away and you're looking for something to take and you have a jelly roll, take that with you, cut yourself some wadding to make some pages, and away you go. And then go hunting in the area for treasures. I'll just show you this lace, and which led to that fabric and that lace and what I used. In the Howard drapery, I found, just excuse me, I'm grabbing them, a heap of these doilies. Now they're not old. They look like they're made probably in India, maybe China. Actually, I'm going to say China. Here comes Fudge again. Fudgy, back it up. They are modern, and they had a big wall of them for sale. So you'd probably see these in $2 shops, but these were in the drapery. I believe they're still there. I've been back a few times since and they've still got plenty there. So if you are from the Fraser Coast area and watching this video, you'd probably be able to pick some up at the Howard drapery. So what I think, they are just fantastic supplies here. This lace is just amazing, and this was from memory about $2.50, $3. That is a lot of lace for the money. And there was about 6 or 7 different styles. So I'll just quickly show you these because they're out there. They're in the $2 shops. I use this one a lot because it gives you a nice scallop. So I just unpick it, and yeah, if the fabric's nice inside, like that's pretty good. That's like a linen. It's really quite a pretty fabric and a nice tone. This one is the same as the first. That's a darker caramel one to the first one. Then there's this one. There's like a rose that's got a tone. I haven't even used these yet. I haven't pulled them into my working stash, so it's good to sort of pull them out and go, oh, I better add that to my pile. They're all the same, and here's a couple more. So I just bought a couple of each that sort of caught my eye. Now it's not modern, it's not vintage or anything like that, but some very interesting pieces in there. And for, you know, $4 or $5, fantastic. And you're supporting a drapery store. And we don't see many of them these days. They are very rare. I think these are all repeats. And yes, I've got this table runner. This is a little bit more money. I think it was about $12. But some beautiful lace on that. So yeah, keep your eye open. You never know what you're going to find when you start poking around stores, and go and find some of these older stores, these draperies in these little country towns, and support them, girls, because they are a dying breed, and it is going to be so sad when we don't have them. The patchwork shops, it's been a real struggle for them out there in the retail world. It's just tough. So if you can spend $1, spend a coin in these stores, I really encourage you to do so, because it's important. It's important that we hang on to these treasures. Okay, that's enough from me. I'll just show you these details again if you want to have another little look at it. Anne Brooks is the textile artist that created the project. Hashtag sew for the soul, and I used a jelly roll. And that's the dimensions, and the fabric that you've seen is Moda Regency Romance. I did ask someone if no one knows what this hashtag means. It appeared on the scene quite a few years back, and I was like, why are they all using this hashtag? So I didn't want to ask anyone because, you know, you don't want to seem like you're not keeping up with the old technology. But I did recently and say, why is the hashtag here? And this 14-year-old tells me that it's because we don't use www to go to a website. We go to a community of websites or videos or Instagram pages or all of these social media platforms, and www was all about going to one website. Hashtag allows you to be drawn into a world of a world of information connected to whatever that sentence is. There you go. Just a side note. That's amazing. That just blows my mind. I'm not a techie person, so that just hashtag, like, who would have thought? Goodness me. Anyway, back to what we all know and love. Okay, thank you very much for joining me today, and have a great day, and I'll see you all soon in the next video. Bye-bye.